Hi, hey, hello. I'm Chelsea. Welcome or welcome back to my channel where we talk books. I got Gus here joining us today to get to see a bit of him. Today I am going to we're getting to the end of the year already, which is crazy. It's almost 2024. And so I figured I would do an end of the year, like, favorite books, and then I got some of my disappointing books. Basically, I'm just gonna talk about my highlights, I guess. Highlight the good and the bad. Yeah, I guess I will just get straight into it. I am sitting on my couch today because I have a Christmas tree, and so things might look a little different, but now you have the wonderful view of the cat, which please enjoy. He loves the attention. We'll just get straight into it. I just have all of my notes on my phone, so that I can see what book I'm gonna start with. Yeah, okay. So my top sort of 5 books of 2023. Let's start with my absolute favorite book of the year. I cannot stop thinking about this book. I cannot stop this book has and had and has a hold on me. And that is Betty. Betty by Tiffany McDaniel. I don't even know where to start with this one. It was just so good. Just a little summary. It's a coming of age story about Betty Carpenter, who was born in the 50s, and she was born to a white mother and a Cherokee father. She got a lot of siblings. There's like eight siblings in this family, and it's basically the story of her and her family and the pain and the struggles and just the love and the resilience that they go through, that they experience, that in particular Betty experiences. She experiences, there's a lot in this book. It's hard to describe this book, honestly. I feel like you just gotta read it. It's just like, this book made me feel so many things, and I love it so much. If you have not read it, please consider this your next read. Although I will say that it's a dark one. In terms of themes, there is some traumatizing and triggering experiences that Betty and her family experience. So just maybe look up trigger warnings. But yeah, this was by far my favorite book of the year. I only read it maybe 2-3 weeks ago now. I convinced my mom to read it. She's reading it now and she's loving it. It's just I will not stop with this book. It's just so many things. It was so beautiful, and I loved it so much. But again, it is a difficult read. There might be some triggering things for some people, so just be aware of that. I did not know that going into it, and as I was reading certain parts, I was like, oh no. But now you know, if you ever read it. Next one was a surprising, enjoying read. And that was Down the Drain by Julia Fox, a memoir. This was just about her life, before and then after the fame of Julia Fox. She just basically details some of her challenging upbringing, some of her struggles with addiction, her experiences when she was a dominatrix, and then her experience of loss of some of her closest friends. It was such a beautiful read. Like I did not have a whole lot of expectations going into it. I had heard some things about it and people were saying that it was actually really good, but I didn't know much about Julia Fox, nor did I care to know, to be honest. But the story kind of, like, the premise of her memoir kind of interested me, so I picked it up and I'm so glad I did. It was like, it sounds bad to say, and I'm sorry to Julia, but I did not think it was going to be very well written, and it was amazingly written. It was beautiful. Like, dare I say it was a masterpiece? I read quite a bit of memoirs, and this year I've read like 5. By far, down the drain, Julia Fox, favorite memoir. Favorite memoir I've read probably since Jeanette McCurdy, is that her name? I'm Glad My Mom Died. I read that last year. This was on par, I would say, in my opinion, with that book. It was just a fascinating read. She has led a fascinating life and she's only like 30 something. Clearly, Julia is a talented writer, and I do hope that she keeps writing and that she comes out with another book, because I will immediately devour it. I will write anything that woman writes. So Julia, hats off to you. Chef's kiss. It was great. Highly recommend. Yeah. Down the drain. Okay, next. I'm trying to go a little quick. I don't want this to be like, you know, 30 minutes of me rambling about books that I like, even though I definitely could. Room by Emma Donoghue. I think that's how you say her name. She's like Irish, Canadian or something. I know that this book came out a long time ago and probably everybody and their mother has read it. I have not. I read it this year and I really enjoyed it. If you have not read it before, maybe somebody else like me has not. It is the story of a 5-year-old Jack and his mother, and they are basically captive in this frighteningly scary man's room. They basically, all this boy knows is the room that he has been born into. He has lived there for 5 years, and the way he like describes the things in the room, the love that his mother has for him, and just how much she wants to provide a safe space for him and for him to be in the real world, was really beautifully told, I thought. It is a little jarring because it is told from the 5-year-old's perspective, and so sometimes the writing is like hard to read a little bit, just because like the spelling is sometimes off or something like that. But I quickly sort of got the groove of it, of the writing style, and I did enjoy that one. Yeah, once they sort of escape the room and are just pushed into the real world, and him experiencing everything for the first time, I thought was really sort of beautiful and interesting. And then just the mother, the poor mother, and I thought it depicted her trauma and depression and her sort of going through all the emotions of what had happened to her in that room. I thought was really well done and beautiful, and I loved that story. And also, I think this is one of those rare occasions where the movie adaptation was also really good. I had seen that before I read the book, but I saw it a long time ago, and I did enjoy. I actually enjoyed both, so that was a nice surprise. Yeah, next read that I really did enjoy. I feel like this one is a very much like a you either love it or hate it, and I kind of really enjoyed it, which I was really surprised about actually. I thought I wasn't gonna like it, but I did. And that is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa. The last names always get me. Ottessa Moshfegh? I'm not really sure how to pronounce that. Anyway, My Year of Rest and Relaxation is essentially about a young woman who's a recent graduate from like Columbia or something. Clearly smart, clearly well off, and she is just kind of done with life. She is unhappy with how her life is going. And she is privileged, she is spoiled, she is so many things that make her so unlikable. And she just decides, she's like, I'm gonna take a year. I'm just gonna not go outside. I'm not gonna interact with people. I am going to just take a year to myself and do nothing. And she essentially does this through drugs. I think she takes a lot of like Adderall. No, not Adderall. Ambient. I don't really know. I can't remember what drugs it is she's taking. This is not a how-to, okay? We don't care. It doesn't matter. This is not a how-to, you know, black out for a whole year, which is essentially what she does. She just kind of goes in and out, and you sort of see her thought process, and like she has one friend essentially who she's such a bitch. This girl is like, ugh. The main character, who you never really get to know her name, but she is so unlikable. But somehow I cared. Like, that's how I knew that it was a good book. I despised her as a character, yet she was fascinating to me, and I like wanted to know what was gonna happen. And despite the fact that there was literally no redeeming qualities in this person, I still really enjoyed reading about them, oddly enough. I know a lot of people did not like this book at all, and I can understand why, because the main character, who is basically only from her perspective, is so unbelievably unlikable that I could see why people would not like this book. However, for some reason I did. I literally can't explain why I enjoyed this book so much, but I did. I thought it dealt with sort of just the undertones of her feelings of depression, and it just kind of felt real. Like, there have been times where I've been like, you know what, I just want to shut everything off. Shut off the whole world and just like lay in bed and not do anything. Not necessarily for a whole year, but you know, she took it to that level. And yeah, I thought it was a relatively realistic depiction of somebody who is really going through it and feeling depressed and completely isolating and alienating themselves from any social interactions. And I don't know, I thought it was well written as well. So it was captivating, despite the fact that I despised the main character. I also did not see the ending coming. There was a bit of a twist at the very end, which I was like, okay, well, that took a turn. But anyway, yeah, I enjoyed that one. The next up, I feel like I won't go too much into this one because I did recently talk about it. I could probably talk about it for days. And that is Remarkably Bright Creatures by, I'm gonna get her name right this time. I will. Shelby Van Pelt. Shelby, there you go. Got it right. Yeah, this one is about Tova. She is a older woman who has recently lost her husband. She is pretty alone. She has also lost her son like years ago, mysteriously. He just sort of vanished. And yeah, to sort of pass the time, she is she cleans her local aquarium in her like small coastal town. And as she is doing her work, she befriends Marcellus. She befriends Marcellus, who is a giant octopus that lives at the aquarium. And their friendship is, and just their relationship in general, is so beautiful. And he is such a fascinating character. And I loved the way that they sort of like had a relationship and how just sort of sweet it was. And I want a relationship with a giant octopus. Like, that's how it made me feel. I was like, oh, I want to meet a giant octopus. As the story goes on, their relationship sort of builds. The octopus, who is very smart and observant of all things human, sort of takes it upon himself to help Tova. And he does in many, many ways. He makes her feel less lonely. He helps her sort of explore what happened to her son. And there's another character that comes in, Cameron, who this octopus also kind of just impacts his life as well. So it was so beautiful. I don't know what else to say about this book, aside from the fact that it was so beautifully written. It was her debut as well. So like, Shelby, kudos to you. I will be reading your next book. I don't care what it's about because I loved this one. Debut. I cannot believe that was her debut. I'm shell-shocked. It was honestly just a touching story. It made me feel things. I loved every minute of it. I have no notes, no negatives, just pure joy and love for all the characters and the story. And if you want a feel-good book, this one is it. This is it. You basically can't feel better than this one, by the end of it at least. All right, those were all my favorite books. Let's get into some of my disappointing reads. I'll be quick about this. I don't want to, you know, absolutely rant and drag these authors in their books, but I'm just gonna say sometimes it's good to know why somebody didn't like a book. And here we go. First one that I read this year that I really was disappointed by, I wouldn't say it was a bad book, I would just say I was disappointed by it, was The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate, who is a physician. He is very well known in the realm of like psychology, social work. He works a lot with trauma and addiction. And so this book is explores our experiences with trauma and how it impacts and affects our body, our soul, our mind. And the book explores sort of how Western medicine, Western treatments often get it so wrong in how to treat people who do have trauma, and how it then makes it so much worse. And it's just not helping. Our system is not helping. And yeah, I feel like in terms of how I felt about this book, I just need to read what I wrote about it on Goodreads, because I feel like that's good enough. I'll just very quickly read it through because it is a bit of a long, I may have ranted a bit on this one. Okay, here we go. What did I say here? All right, my review was, where did it go? There it is. I gave it 2 stars. And I said, this is definitely an important book about trauma and its impacts on our individual and social health. The topics of trauma are often not discussed enough. However, this book was so overwhelming with information about the deep and dark effects of trauma, addictions, homelessness, disease, etc. It felt as if we are doing everything wrong and nothing right. So much so that it left me with a lot of hopelessness. It was a very long book, and it felt like it dumped all of this trauma on the reader with not a lot of solutions to actively solve the problem. Although it was very well researched, and clearly Gabor Mate is an expert and knows what they are talking about, it left me feeling helpless, knowing that there's all this trauma and not a lot of answers of how to change it. What can we do? It just felt so depressing, and it felt like there needed to be more of a resolution, maybe more of like, it just felt like a trauma dump, and yeah, it was, honestly, it left me feeling very depressed. So if you are depressed, do not read this book because it will leave you feeling hopeless. And that is my review of that. It was well written and really well researched. Like, they did their due diligence. It was him and his son, I believe, who wrote and researched this book together. Clearly they had done it over years, because it was a long book. There was a lot of information, but it was just, it was lacking probably one of the most important parts of this type of book, which is not quite self-help, but it's like educational non-fiction. And it felt like I got a lot of education on how horrible trauma is treated, and then that was it. There was no like, this is what we can do to make it better. That's how it felt to me. Or that maybe there just wasn't enough of it. Like, I was so bombarded with trauma that the parts that were somewhat positive, maybe, it just went straight over my head because I was so focused on how much trauma and just disappointingness of it there was, if that makes any sense. So the next book, it is a popular book on TikTok, which the next two books actually were both very popular on TikTok, which tells me a lot. Yeah, I should have known, actually. First one, they're both like love related. The first one is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. How do I describe this book? I'm not really sure. That's how much I disliked it. I'm sorry, Dolly. It was not for me. Basically, it's a woman's story about her experiences of love and friendship. Yeah, not much else to say about that one, to be honest. The beginning of the book, I was interested, I guess. It sort of had me hooked a bit, and then it just fell flat. It was like so blah to me. The author just went on and on and on about her failed like romantic relationships, and I felt like every single relationship she talked about had the same problems, and she was just not learning anything from any of her like failed relationships. It felt a bit repetitive, and then I just stopped caring. And then she just, like, she was quite jealous of her friend who had a very healthy relationship, and it felt like it made me just not like her. And then it felt like she was a shitty friend, and then it felt like I just did not care anymore about her. So yeah, this one was not for me. I have really not a lot of good things to say about it. But I know that some people love it, and that's cool, but it just didn't grind my gears. I also read her other book, Ghost, which I think was her debut, and I did not like that either. So I think this author is just, she's not for me, and that's okay. Sometimes that happens. Yeah, last one that I'll discuss today, also, yep, a popular read, book on Book Talk and Bookstagram and that kind of thing. Also romance, is In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros. Yeah, this one was also blech to me. Woman meets a man on a plane. There's an instant connection between them. It's like insta love, essentially. Plane begins to go down. They're in a plane crash, and he saves her life. Over the years, they meet up here and there. He's in the military, and then years later, she's like a journalist or something. And so she goes to, I don't know, Afghanistan. I don't know. And he has to like protect her at all costs. But he's crazy in love with her. He doesn't want to leave his career because he's afraid it's not going to work out. Yada, yada, friggin' yada. This was, you know, romance is such a hard genre for me. I just find it so cringy all the time. Like, maybe it's just not my genre. I have read romance that I have enjoyed much more than this. And this one just, the cringe killed me. It felt so cringy. It felt so, like, unrealistic as well, which I know oftentimes romances are not going for reality. It's very much like an escape. But it's just, is how I felt reading it. I did finish it. Did not, it was like a two-star, 1.5 star read for me. I could have cared less about the characters or the romance, really. And the military aspect, the politics of it, I really could have cared less. I disliked that. That was not for me. Clearly, like, military romance, if that's a genre that exists, I'm sure it is. There's so many, like, subgenres of romance out there. That is not for me. No. Yeah. This one was not it for me. I did also read her other, she's maybe the biggest author of the year, because she came out with Fourth Wing, which I did read, and it was all right. I enjoyed it way better than this, way better than Most Likely Event or whatever. So yeah, she did Fourth Wing. She did Iron something, the second Fourth Wing in the series. I have not read that one yet. I don't know that I will. Maybe. So yeah, she's probably the biggest author of the year. And I liked one of her books and I did not like this one. So what are you gonna do? That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, maybe like, maybe subscribe. That would be amazing. Until next time. Bye.